Hey guys, I'm Carissa.
I'm Daryl. We're here with Divergence training, and
We've got our buddy Danger here with us as well. And we're out on the trail in beautiful northern Arizona, as you can see. We came across a wonderful patch of prickly pear with freshly ripe fruits on it. So we just wanted to share the uses of prickly pear and show you guys a little bit of harvesting as well.
yep. So what you're going to look for with prickly pear, obviously pretty obvious plant here. It grows on a lot of rocky hillsides in full sunlight. Specifically, we're on a south-facing hillside right now. You'll find some huge patches on that. It likes sunlight. It likes rocky, like I said, rocky hillsides. And it's been raining a lot, so these plants are really healthy. We're at the end of August right now, so right at the end of the good season for harvesting the fruit.
Yeah, typically the fruits are ripe somewhere from mid to late August. So right now in late August, you can see they're nice and ripe. What you want to look for to make sure they're ripe is this. This is a good example right here where it's like that dark pink to purple color, and you can see how nice and plump these fruits are. And they are completely edible. The only thing you've got to worry about is the glochids, which are the tiny spines along the fruit. You'll see the little pods of the glochids, and so we're going to show you guys how to remove those as well.
Yep. And first thing, some tools for harvesting. We like to just put it in a little 2.5 gallon or a 5 gallon bucket.
Hard-sided recommended,
Yep.
because if you put it in a bag, you'll get spines all over the place and it's a mess.
Yep, some metal tongs and a nice long knife, and
Yep.
that's and some gloves, which we're going to put on when we show you the harvesting here.
Good knife. Always have a good knife.
Always have a good knife. So we'll get on to some harvesting and some survival and medicinal uses.
All right, now we're going to go into harvesting of both the fruits and the pad because both are edible. So for the fruits, you can see we've got this nice ripe bunch right here. That's that deep pink to purple color that we're looking for, and it's nice and plump. All you're going to do is take your tongs and go to the base of the fruit right where it meets the pad, and then gently twist off like so. So you can see those are those glochids that we were talking about, those little spines. And then the nice fruit is already coming out there. And place it in the bucket. Same thing. Grab it at the base, gently twist. And these are just coming off so easy. You don't need a knife or anything for this. All you need is the tongs.
All right, guys, so you saw Carissa here doing the fruits. I'm going to show you how to harvest the pads. Now, generally the pads, they're built so if the wind hits them flat, they're really strong in this axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our knife here, we're going to grab onto the pad, and we're going to pull it along its line, just like that. And as we start to cut in and twist off, the structure's broken down. It comes off really nicely right there. A lot of uses for this pad, which we'll show you in a few minutes.
Now we've got our lovely prickly pear fruits boiling over the fire. So we're just going to make sure that it gets up to a boil. Then we are going to steep it. So we'll cover it and let it sit for about 30 minutes. And then we will continue processing it, mash it up, and strain it after that. Another method we can use is the fire itself. So we can take the fruits or the pads and burn off all of these little glochids. So let me get a good, you can see all those glochids at the end right there. So we're just going to put it up to the fire. You can see how they're burning off immediately. So just kind of hold it and roll it through the fire and burn off as much as you can. That looks pretty good there. And then we can do the same thing with the pads. So burn, oh yeah, burn baby burn. Try not to set your pad on fire or burn it too much, so just keep it pretty superficial and just burn off those glochids there. So we do prefer the boiling and steeping method. However, if you don't have fire and you have to process without, then you can go ahead and remove the glochids. And once the glochids have been removed like these fruits have, you can either do one of two things. You can just chop off the ends like so. Oops. You can see how beautiful the inside of that looks. And then we can just go across and start to peel off the skin, and you can get to the fruit that way, like so. Or you can just simply split down the middle, and then you can take a spoon or whatever you have on hand and just start to scoop out all of this wonderful juicy fruit on the inside. We do want to warn you that you can see there's a bunch of these little seeds here, and those seeds are technically edible. However, you could break a tooth on them, and so it's better to strain it once you scoop all of the fruit out of the inside and all of that nice juice as well. So that's one reason we really like the boiling method, because it helps break down the fruits, and it's a lot easier to go ahead and strain once you do that.
All right, guys, so we showed you with a fire how to get some of the glaucids and the needles out of the prickly pear. You don't always have a fire. So the other best way we found is, as primitive as it gets, it's a flat rock. So what you're going to do is just use this flat side of the rock, and you're going to use it, and you see where the core of the glaucids are right here. You're just going to use that flat edge and use it to pull them right out on each one of these. You'll find on the flat side of the prickly pear, it's pretty easy to do. Once you start getting to the edges, these may just need to be trimmed with a knife right here, because these typically are a little bit more difficult. And so, yeah, maybe just trim those edges off with a knife. Gloves are a must here. I just stuck myself a couple times already. So you get the idea here. And this is how we're going to get the glaucids and the needles out without a fire. We'll show you a couple ways to process the pads here. Again, these are both medicinal and edible. So the first way I'm going to show you, pretty easy to process this pad for medicinal uses. We're just going to take our knife out here. I generally like to just cut this end off right here. Just allows me more access to the pad right there. And then this gooey stuff in the middle is great medicinally, and Chris is going to talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm just going to show you how to get that stuff out of there. All you're going to do is split the pad right down the middle. You don't have to be that precise when you're doing this. For cooking, we will be a little bit more precise. Awesome. We're going to break this open, and you'll see we've got all of this goo here right there. So we'll use this one. Resheath the knife here. And so how to access this goo, again, Chris will talk about the medicinal aspects of this. Very, very good stuff. I use a spork or a fork or something like that generally, and just break this up right here, just like this. There we go. And what you're doing is scooping all this out. You see there's a lot of structure to the plant right here, but what you're looking for is this goo. Get as much of that as you can, and we'll talk about the uses of this in just a second. So that's how we're going to do it medicinally. I'm going to get another pad, a little bigger one here. And this is one we're going to cook in here in a minute. This is like a natural pita pocket. You can, or your aluminum foil. You can cook right in the fire with this guy. So again, I'm going to start with just taking this end off. I'm going to leave myself a pretty decent pocket here. Just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this thing intact, and I'm going to split right down the middle. So when you're looking at this, a nice good thick and straight pad is ideal for this. And we're going to be very careful to split right down the middle here and not break the sides at all. So what we're doing is we're making a container. What can this container be used for? Like I said, we're going to cook in it here in a minute. But we can also boil water in this, as well as store basically anything you want. Be very careful with your blade here as you're doing this. And you can see all we're doing is just making a nice big pocket. Just like that. We'll resheath. Now something you can do here, if you have some sort of a stick and you want to prop this open so you're boiling water in this, we can use some sort of a stick here, just like this. We're going to prop it open and make ourselves a cup, just like that. Awesome, so we'll show you in a second. I'm going to go ahead and get some food to cook in this. We're going to do chicken and apples tonight right in the fire using this as our aluminum foil. I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. I'm going to get it all stuffed down in here and we're going to get it in the fire. Alright, so we've got some chicken and apples here and my handy dandy folding skillet. We've already taken the prickly pear fruits off the fire to go ahead and steep for a little while before we turn them into juice, and I think we're going to have some margaritas later with that. So right now we're going to make up some dinner. So like I said, this prickly pear pad you can cook in. It's just like your aluminum foil or your pita pocket. I've got some chicken and apples here. We're just going to go ahead and start stuffing it down in, just randomly. It'll actually hold quite a bit more than you think. Oops, there we go. A lot of meats will work for this. Any meat will work for this. We prefer birds or poultry. Just tend to taste a little better. We have done beef. It's good, but not nearly as good as the chicken here. So we'll just stuff that all full. Right down there. And now we're just going to find a place in the fire. And we're just going to put it right in the fire, just like that.
While we're waiting for our delicious chicken and apples dinner to cook, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the uses of prickly pear for medicinal purposes. So like Daryl already mentioned, you have all of this goo on the inside of the pad. This is mucilage, so you can see the consistency of this, how it's very, very gooey, you know. So the first thing we can think about is topical use. So topically, this is very cooling and it works really well for burns, especially sunburns. So you don't want to put it on anything beyond a 1st degree burn typically because you have infection to worry about. But if we're just talking about a sunburn or something like that, you can actually just take this mucilage and put it directly on the skin like so. And you can, when you do this, you'll feel how cooling and soothing that actually is to the skin. It's really, really nice. We don't have any gauze right here right now to show you, but you can also make this into a poultice with some gauze. So you can actually put the gauze over and then put the prickly pear in between the gauze layers and then put a little water and just let it drip right into the skin, which is really nice. Another use, you can just take the pad itself too if you don't have any gauze, and you can just put this right on the top just as a plaster and secure it down with some kind of Coban or bandana or whatever you have, if you have any kind of issues with your skin there. Another thing we've used it for commonly is bug bites, because it does have some astringent properties, so that means it draws out different things. So venom in a bug bite, if you were to put that topically, it'll help bring all of that to the surface, and it works wonders. I've seen it work in just a matter of hours to pull all that out. And then lastly, like we're doing tonight, you can eat the inside of this pad. So in Mexico, it's actually called nopalitos, and they eat the pad commonly, and it can be used for type 2 diabetes. So it can actually lower your blood sugar, which is really great because a lot of people have blood sugar issues. There's a ton of other medicinal uses, but I think those are the top 3 that we really see. And yeah. Of course, we do our best to never get Glockids in our hands, but it's inevitable. So always carry a pair of tweezers or something that has tweezers, like a Swiss Army knife like we do. And so yeah, really good to have just in case, because you never know. And there we go.
Okay guys, so we've let the prickly pear fruit here after boiling steep for about 30 minutes. We drained the water off, and now I made myself a little primitive pestle here, my pots, my mortar. And all we're going to do now is we're just going to mash this up as much as we can, extract as much juice out of it. It's going to be a little bit of manual labor. A potato masher works really well for this, but we like to keep things simple, a little more primitive. and you can see we're getting a lot of that juice there. So we're going to continue to mash this up. We'll come back in a few minutes here. After it's all a big gooey mess, we're going to strain it through some cheesecloth, and we're going to have the beginnings of our prickly pear syrup. All right, guys, so we've mashed up our prickly pear enough here. We're going to extract some juice. Brought out a mason jar, so we'll be able to see the nice rich color of that. So this has to be strained to get all the glaucids and all the seeds and everything out. Use a decent amount of layers of cheesecloth, or use like a piece of t-shirt cotton, something that thick. Just like when you purify water, you're going to want to put it over your jar here. We're going to make just a little cup in there. And these bush pots with the handles are real nice for this, because now I've got the lid on and we can just start to pour the juice out. And we're going to have to let it strain through.
So I just pulled our lovely prickly pear pad off the fire and went ahead and split it open with our chicken and apples, and as you can see, voila, dinner is served. And that chicken is so moist. You never have to worry about dry chicken when you're doing prickly pear pad cooking. That's for sure. And those apples look amazing as well. And remember, you can also eat the whole pad technically, especially the inside of this prickly pear pad here. And remember, those are the nopalitos. You do have to be a little careful, because in small doses it can actually help with GI issues, things like constipation, but in large doses it can cause diarrhea, nausea, and all kinds of things, especially if you're not used to eating wild foods. So do be careful, but definitely try it, because the nopalitos are delicious. Daryl just finished filtering our delicious prickly pear juice, which is very high in antioxidants, vitamin C, certain B vitamins as well. And I'm just going to do a quick taste test. Excelente. For a true prickly pear syrup, we would do a reduction with sugar, but we're not really into sugar, so we're just going to do it as is. Well, that's a wrap, folks. We've got our chicken and apples made over an open fire in a fresh prickly pear pad.
Which I think we should try right now.
Definitely. There's a little chicken. That is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Super moist.
Give it a try here. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Oh my gosh, I think Danger needs to try chicken too, because he is the chicken connoisseur. Here, bud, come here. Come here.
Cool, we'll let Danger have some.
Oh yeah, he approves as well. We've got our fire, and best of all, fresh prickly pear margaritas.
And they are outstanding.
Yes.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.